All right, welcome to episode 13 of the Ozheads podcast. And today we're actually joined by two very special guests. Yes. Gentlemen, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourselves. Tell us where you're from. Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Okay, thanks, John. My name is Paul Graham. I'm the National Sales Manager for Brigham Enterprises. We are the distributor for Crown Heads in Canada. I've been in the industry for 25 years this June, and just starting my 21st year with Brigham.
So you started when you were 12?
11.
Okay, 11.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, hard to believe, eh? I couldn't have imagined. Very rare to be with a company that long these days, but I think that's a testament to the company I work with. So
excellent. Yeah.
And Richard.
Yeah, Richard Joseph. I'm the premium category specialist, premium cigars at Brigham.
Yeah, that's awesome. And in honor of you guys being here, I wore my closest outfit to being colors of Canada, except with a Danish flag. Just want you to know.
Yeah. Same but different.
And I brought my Devon over here, who is not the Canadian colors, but she's like a lap warmer, a dog who's sleeping, very relaxed around you.
She was wide awake until the camera started, and then she goes to sleep.
Canadian, almost Canadian colored shoes, but they're not quite. It's not the red, but it's burgundy. It's close. I mean, it matches your shirt, Richard. So, I kind of knew you were going to be wearing that today. So, I mean, not
planned.
really, but okay.
Well,
I'm going down that path.
You know the story with, the relations between the Danes and Canada?
No. Tell us.
Up in the north, there's an island that there's a dispute, and it's been dubbed the world's friendliest war, essentially. And
which island?
I forget off the top of my head, but the way it went is like
Jamaica. It's not Svalbard though, is it? I mean, I've been to Svalbard.
No, it's an uninhabited island. Oh. It's a useless island. Nobody lives there. I think it's just a bunch of rock. But what would happen every couple of years, Canadian Coast Guard would go there and leave a bottle of I think it was whiskey or something, and then the Danes would go there 2 years later and switch it out, and it was just this back and forth. So a little bit of a connection with Danish. So the shirt works. So.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, that was the closest thing that I had, and I was like, okay, I've got to wear it. It's kind of like closest thing that I have to the Canadian flag. But I appreciate you guys being over here and for your distribution and hard work in Canada.
Thank you.
I know there are a lot of Americans ask a lot of questions about the Canadian market. It's kind of whenever I go and visit, it is a little bit of a hot topic. I was. When we sold CAO, then I was out of the business 14 years, and when I came back, there were quite a lot of changes that happened in the Canadian market. I know, John, you'd kind of, before we got on, mentioned that.
Like for me, as a cigar fan and a consumer, you guys could take us through, like, what is it like from a consumer experience to walk into a tobacconist and try to purchase a cigar in Canada? Because I've heard all these things about plain packaging and, black curtains being slid back for 30 seconds, all these. And so dispel some of the myths and educate us.
And also, sorry to add on, but what changed within the last kind of 15 years? Because, again, when I was out of it, you could show the packaging. So, just educate us and people listening.
So... Yeah, I think it was the late '90s, early 2000s. Is you started to see some changes. The first big change was in 2000, starting around 2006. Some of the provinces put in display bans and or dark market, and
that means that it has to be behind a curtain, or
so you can't display tobacco to consumers, but there are exemptions. There's tobacconist exemptions. So, fast forward to 2008, and the federal government came in and put a blanket legislation, dark market across the country. And, but each province has, a little bit of some different regulations that pertain to that. But essentially, if you're a variety store, if you're a 7-Eleven or a Circle K, everything's, because it's not age restricted. A 10-year-old can go in there and buy some gum. All tobacco's behind, hidden behind a counter, and whether it's a flap or a curtain or whatever, it cannot be visibly displayed. Then you have tobacconists, and I refer to it as tobacconists with a capital T, and they can have an exemption for to display product, but they have to have age restricted access. So depending on the province, 18 or 19 years of age and older. And so there you can display cigars, everything. So with the exception of cigarettes for most provinces. So, they gave an exemption for specialty tobacco. So those are for us, are stores that we work very closely with, because if you're going to get a brand, if you're launching a new brand in Canada, you want to, get that brand out there and known, you need to work closely with those retailers so they can, so you can get the product out there and displayed and into the hands of consumers and so forth. So
when did they start restricting bands being displayed, and why? What was the?
Oh, it's all about the children. we got to protect the children.
But then again, I mean, there's an age restriction in order for them to enter the store buy the tobacco. Kind of walk us through that logic.
So.
There isn't any logic? No logic. I mean, it doesn't sound like it.
No. You can't try and apply logic to the rules that we have to abide by. They're arbitrary. So, the goal is to prevent children from buying cigars, but children aren't buying $35 cigars.
Yeah. Period.
It's not a thing.
Right.
It's a rule to prevent something that doesn't happen from happening. Yeah. This is what we have to deal with. Yeah.
So when did that take effect then? With putting and so what are the rules? You have to cover the cigar band with a black external band or gray band or?
Yeah. So it was in right before I think it was in 2018-19 they started putting forth legislation. They finalized the regulations and it was supposed to go into effect. I believe it was 2020. But COVID hit, and so they just delayed it, and they just focused on education initially, and they just kept pushing it back. But basically, it's when it comes to cigars, the color you have to use is called Pantone 448C, and it was deemed the world's. It's like a brown green, it was deemed the world's ugliest color by marketing experts. Ironically enough, this year one of the most popular colors is a color, and I forget the name of it, but I've seen it a few times and it's the same color, so I find it a little funny. But what you can do is one thing that we were successful with was they allow the original band to be underneath the plain package band. Mm-hmm. So we refer to it as double banding is sort of our internal lingo, I guess. And that's something that we've discovered very quickly, and we pushed very hard for with all of our suppliers is to do that, because that adds a level of legitimacy to the brand. That's important, and we're very lucky you guys have been both able to accommodate that for us, and that helps. Just for an example, a brand like Davidoff, they don't double band in Canada. So you have this, $50, $60, $70 cigar with just a plain packaged band that says Davidoff.
In the world's ugliest color.
In the world's ugliest color.
So they don't have the band underneath.
They do not, no.
So from
Drew Estate's another one.
From 06 up until close to current time, it was just the display band.
Yeah.
Now the plain packaging goes into effect.
Yeah.
So I go into a store and I'm looking for Jericho Hill, for instance.
Yeah.
How, with all the cigars are banded in the world's ugliest color, how do I differentiate?
You need a magnifying glass.
You have to read, yeah.
You have to be able to read.
So it literally, they can't be in the box either, right? Can you have them in the actual...
So that's changing.
So that's changing. That was... Yeah, the law is for the intended for resale products. So... and that was kind of an unknown, because, when we... If you ask Health Canada a question, can you do this? They won't answer it. They'll say to you, it's not my job to interpret the legislation. Their job just to enforce it, and which is again falls under a bit of an arbitrary, situation for us. But so there was a bit of a little bit of You could do it, but we have new health warning packaging laws coming in, and it's just like an extra sticker and this and that. So that's going to be over. But most people switched, because it was, our goal was to get everything compliant as quick as possible, just to be, the first ones out of the gate, just not that we wanted to, but just because, you know, we didn't want to catch ourselves short and we're waiting 6 months and we're out of stock on stuff because we didn't, you know, position ourselves, you know.
Well, I mean, I was in Toronto. I mean, not Toronto. I was in Vancouver recently, and I walked into a store over there. And so in the store, the cigars were behind glass cabinets. They had them outside of the box, and they had them in, you know, cedar trays at an angle.
Yeah.
But in front of it, they talked about the brand.
Yeah.
And then they showed actually, you know, what the brand looked like in a photo. That's okay. That's okay. I take it, or is that, or is it kind of a gray area?
Yeah, it's kind of a gray area because, you know, some might argue it's advertising, but I mean, you're in an age restricted store, so I don't. Yeah, I rarely hear of enforcement on that end.
Well, and to be fair, you also had to ask the store clerks or the owners or whoever was there at the time in order to get into that glass cabinet to purchase the cigar. So, you know, I would imagine at that point they ask for their age, you know, what their age is. I mean, if that's in question.
Humidors have to be locked, and then you have to be escorted around. And you're not actually supposed to touch the cigars yourself. You have to have like a basket, and then you can put them in the basket or whatever. Because if you touch the cigar by yourself, you magically become 5 years old and you're an underage tobacco user.
Yeah.
Do you guys, like, what about like, this kind of like, did you guys see this coming, or was it a little bit of a surprise due to the fact of the timing with COVID, number one, and number two? I mean, are there, because I know in the U.S., you know, we've gotten really active about trying to, you know, lobby to, you know, educate our politicians on, like, you know, how premium cigars are different than cigarettes and how the legislation would hurt small business. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that?
As an industry, and you know, as Canada, we're 40 million people versus what 330 down here. We pushed for an exemption, like they gave in you know, a few other countries. Like I believe the United Kingdom did that initially. I think they still do, where they give an exemption for, you know, pipe tobacco and cigars, which makes sense because the problem with this legislation like this and legislation in general for tobacco is, you know, cigars and specialty tobacco, it's an unintended consequence. It's really geared towards cigarettes. That's right. What it's geared towards. But, you know, we have, I think on the federal level, it's 4 or 5 different classifications of tobacco. Whereas if my understanding down here, you have 10 or you know, like, you know, chewing tobacco is, I think there's 2 provinces, maybe 3 that do a separate classification, but they don't classify pipe tobacco separately. It gets, you know, under, you know, loose tobacco, and then gets subjected to taxation that's similar for cigarettes and so forth. So it's just, you know, and I also think, you know, the government doesn't want to create a situation where, you know, that, you know, there could be loopholes or something like that. And I hate that word because it's not loopholes, it's compliance, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I know it was a big change for us when we had to, you know, really decide that we needed to kind of, you know, really kind of, you know, define ourselves as premium cigars and separate ourselves from a lot of OTP products, and then therefore going and lobbying. So we had to hire a lobbying firm as an industry, and it was a lot of hard work, a lot of conversations, a lot of kind of, you know, really, I mean, even moving the headquarters of, you know, the PCA in our case to DC from, you know, Georgia, where it was initially. So, I mean, it was a lot of effort and time and money spent to do that. So I know it's not you know what I mean? It's not an easy thing to kind of, it's expensive and it's time consuming and it's not necessarily easy, you know?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It really takes away, it sucks up a lot of resources to manage it, to implement it, oversee it, stay on top of it. You know, I mean, just reading some of the legislation. Unfortunately, I read it so I know it as best as possible, but I don't have to read it 10 times to really fully understand it. And you know, that's not my strength. You know,
is there an organization of like Canadian tobacconists or retailers, or, you know,
there like used to be,
as there is here?
Yeah, there used to be. Yeah, so down here you have, you know, PCA and Cigar Rights of America and so forth. Right. There used to be a small one called the STMA, Specialty Tobacco Merchants Association. That was mainly Ontario-based. And there's Small Guys Cigar Group. It's a small industry, right? I mean, we've got 10 distributors in Canada for cigars, and 6 are probably representing 90% of the cigar business in Canada. So it's we're such a huge country, kind of coordinating retailers from coast to coast is a little challenging. So like down here, it's obviously much more organized, and that's probably somewhat has hurt us a little bit in a way. So
even beyond the display bans and the plain packaging, walk us through the taxation, because I was always like amazed at how the premium cigar industry could survive in a climate where the taxation is so egregious. I mean, like for instance, Jericho Hill, I think I've heard retails for $20 or something.
Yeah, Jericho Hill's
is that right?
20,
okay.
Yeah, it's $20 or so.
And that's just like the norm. People just kind of are used to
20
that.
Canadian dollars, yeah?
Yeah, so that's more like
because of the
15
exchange.
US maybe.
But still, it seems like the taxation rate is much higher in Canada. Am I correct?
The
absolutely.
tobacco tax.
Yeah.
It's basically it's a fact. Whatever we buy a cigar for, it's ends up being 12 to 15 times that when you factor in the taxes. And it depends on the province too. But our federal excise tax is 88%. There's most countries, there's 8% duties. There's duty specific. So it adds up. And then you have provincial tobacco taxes on top of that, and that ranges anywhere from like 69 to 140%, give or take. There are, in some provinces, they have caps, so they cap out the provincial tobacco taxes on premium cigars. So anywhere from 5 to 8.61 per cigar. So, but I mean, it's it does have a negative consequences. Contraband is rampant. Online ordering is rampant. COVID was fantastic. We've always estimated, about 35% of cigars consumed in Canada are purchased outside of Canada, because as a Canadian, we came down here on Monday. I can head back with 50 cigars duty free, no problem. And I could probably go back with 100 cigars, tell them I have 100 cigars, and they're just not going to be bothered to, just go, customs will just say, yeah, just go ahead, But when COVID hit, all that stopped. So the domestic demand went through the roof, and, really saw like a true picture of what that could be. And that's why we're always, we always, for your brands, it's important, even though we're a small market, it's important to be in our market because it's advertising to Canadian consumers that are going down to, New York for the weekend, or Buffalo or Florida or wherever to, they'll pick up your brand. I tried one or two. I really like, the Jericho Hill. I'm going to pick up a box while I'm down there. So, that's there's a lot of value there for you guys.
From an overall market standpoint, can you give us like a sense of like, how many cigars a year, the Canadian market kind of sells, and what is the breakdown between Cuban versus non-Cuban in the market?
Yeah. So including mass market or not?
Not including mass market,
so
let's
the
say.
premium market is 15, 20 million, we would estimate. Yeah, give or take around there. When I started, it was 75% Cuban and 25% non-Cuban. Yeah. It's, for most part, has flipped.
Really?
It's probably...
Wow.
It's probably, let's talk to retailers. We're always asking those type of questions. 40, 60, 35, 65. Some stores are, they're 25% Cuban and 75% non-Cuban, and it's come a long way. And that's also because the non-Cuban cigars have gotten tremendously better, and the variety out there. Nicaraguan cigars are they exploded down here, they exploded up there. So it's certainly changed, over the last 20 years since I've been.
Well, I wonder, like, Richard, what was your kind of viewpoint on, like, how, was it just because of that it changed, or was it because of lack of availability from the Cuban cigars, or what kind of went into that?
That's one thing. The price of the Cuban cigars has also gone up,
what I was thinking.
astronomically, right? So, I mean, like Cohiba Single 06 used to be able to buy for $100. Now it's like $179 plus tax
per cigar
for one cigar. Yeah,
per cigar.
Try Cohiba Bahique.
I was going to ask you. That was my next question. What was a Bahique in Canada? What would it retail
it's
for?
Like $300, maybe
$300?
$200 something after tax.
$300 a cigar.
Yeah, so they had the 55th anniversary Cohiba. It was like $400 for one.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Wow.
And you get jobbers that you get guys that come and they buy it and they take it back to China.
Yeah, they're sold
Hong Kong.
immediately. Like,
Yeah.
Do people in Canada just make a lot of money or something? Because I mean, that's a lot
Well,
of
or it's
disposable
people that are visiting also
crazy.
that, like, like you said, buy it and go back to
right.
to wherever country they're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to buy a
And so-
cigar like that, I want it fully dressed in the box with the band. That's a big purchase.
Yes.
You know what I
With
mean?
a dog, maybe.
With a dog, maybe throw the dog in, gift with purchase. But seriously, I mean that's amazing that would even sell at that price.
Well, so I
with
guess it's
that
like a value for
restriction.
money, right, kind of component when you look at if a $20 Nicaraguan cigar, as you said, versus a $400.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
Yeah. I'm not spending $400 on an individual cigar because.
But I mean, on what's the average price, would you say, of a Cuban cigar versus an average price of a non-Cuban? I mean, generally speaking.
It's like what, $40 to $50
For a Cuban cigar?
Yeah, like a D4 or something's like $50 after taxes. And then a non-Cuban you're like 25 to 35. So it's and then you also keep in mind that, like, you buy 10 Cuban cigars, you might be able to smoke 6 of them.
The other 4 plugged.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Quality control
Still.
is down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of different factors kind of came into play that have kind of made this sort of flip from 70% maybe to 40% or something like that before.
It's also more of a commitment as well. Sorry, when you buy a Cuban now that just drops, you gotta take it, you gotta buy it, you gotta make room for in your humidor, you gotta hold on to it. And 2 years later, then you get a chance to smoke it because they're very green when they come out, so not ready to smoke immediately. So like it's more of a commitment in the sense that you gotta buy it, age it, hold on to it, and then you go to smoke it. And inevitably it doesn't smoke, and then you get frustrated and you cut it up in a million pieces and throw it off your balcony, or
I think consumers are far more educated now. I mean, it's never been a better time to smoke cigars, especially in the last 10 years. But they're more educated, and 20 years ago it was like, you ask somebody, it's like, I smoke Cubans, and I only smoke Cubans, and they were. Now they're more educated, so they're more open-minded, and they're willing to try more things. And then, we're in the last couple of years with the the price increases on Cubans, and the quality's not as good as it used to be. More consumers are starting to think, what, you hit a threshold. It's like, I'm gonna try something for $25 because I can get 2 cigars now. I can get 2 Boss First for $50. I can get 2 Jericho Hills for around $50, and hey, that's way better value.
And a more consistent product, probably.
Oh,
too.
absolutely.
So, can you smoke in cigar stores in Canada? Because it seems like with all the restrictions, I'm like, are there even lounges, or where do people smoke cigars for the most part?
There are, it's probably a bit of a speakeasy movement, a little bit. There's not a ton of places, but there's a few places. Some people have like like in Winnipeg, there's a place called Thomas Hines that has an exemption.
Sure, these people in Beverly Hills, right? Was there?
Yeah, there was.
Yeah. And so the new owners there, they've invested. They have an exemption, and they've got a lounge there. And there's some places.
So you have to get
they're private. They're very private.
I see. So do you have to get an exemption in order to open a lounge, or does it have to be private? Or talk about that for a moment.
It's pretty private, and to protect the retailer's anonymity. On that,
I see. Okay.
Right, but I mean, there's places. Some people will, rent the apartment upstairs and come to my private lounge. But again, it's
you could get a time machine too, right? Go back in time and get grandfathered in.
True.
Do that.
True.
Well, yeah.
Where do the kids smoke?
Yeah.
Schoolyard, sorry. I'm just,
They're in a schoolyard.
What do they smoke?
Grass.
Grass.
That's what they're smoking. Exactly. Yeah.
They're not getting them from any cigar store.
No. And that's, not to dwell on that, but that's what sort of, it's so funny is, they talk about the kids, the government, the kids. And then you look at they'll do, I think they put out a study every couple of years, which, shows what are kids abusing. And it's like, cigars are way down here.
Right.
It's cannabis and it's, alcohol, all these things. And, they don't, it just seems tobacco's just like, oh, that's easy to pick on or something. Right.
Yeah. So Richard, what region do you kind of focus on or go and travel to in Canada?
Well, I'm in Toronto, but my territory was southwestern Ontario. But moving forward, it's Canada.
All of Canada.
Yeah.
Then. So Toronto, I'm assuming, is the #1 market for cigars in Canada. Is that? Talk to me about the different cities and what are the cities and markets that are kind of that you guys focus on or that are kind of important markets for cigars.
Ontario and Alberta, probably the two biggest provinces.
It's Ontario, Alberta, BC and Quebec are, that's where the bulk of the population is. 90% of the population is within 100 miles or something like that of the U.S. border. So, our strategy is, again, Canada, and we're not, going to the middle of nowhere.
Sure.
There's no ROI on that or anything,
right.
But we have relationships with all stores selling cigars in the country for the most part. But all the tobacconists with capital T, absolutely. Vancouver has a couple great shops there on the island, Victoria. Alberta, Calgary and Edmonton, there's some great shops there. And, I could spend our 5 minutes rhyming them all off.
Well, what I thought was really neat when I went into, I believe it was Revolution Cigars that I went into in Vancouver. They were all really super friendly and enthusiastic and excited and up, and it was great. And then they were having some sort of jazz night. At these events it was a kind of a hospitality event. Can they have cigars at events even, or how does that work? They weren't marketing it necessarily. It was just a fun night. You know what I mean? It wasn't marketed as as a cigar evening. Can you talk about that? Can they do things like this too, or not?
They do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No.
Yeah. But is that a key? Is that a
Good
key?
answer.
Is that a key component to have a very successful retailer to have kind of these kind of
helps a
social
lot.
social
It helps a lot.
gatherings?
Especially with events and stuff like that. We launch a product and then they have the ability to bring in 100, their best customers, and reps work the humidors, and they might have someone from Jack Daniels or Patron there to do a pairing or whatever it is, and then maybe some food. Someone smokes a brisket, and there's food and there's drinks, and then if you can smoke, it helps obviously.
So they were definitely very warm and relational people. So I would imagine similar to here, right? We always say it's a relationship business, cigar business.
100%.
So it seems like it's
the same.
very important there too.
Critical.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When we do events, and Miguel was up in Canada last year, and
He's too quiet, Miguel. That's the problem. He's not a very social
You can never
guy.
hear the guy.
Introverted guy, right?
Absolutely.
Squeeze two words out of him.
yeah. But our goal is my goal is it's our way of getting the brand out there, my number one goal is to get that cigar, so into the hands of as many consumers as possible. So when we
Sample,
launched
sample,
Le Patissier last year, I wanted to get that into as many hands as possible.
Yeah.
When we brought in the boss first, same thing. So I want to get that. 'Cause that's how you get the word out, and also Canadian consumers follow the magazines down here. They follow the American market. Podcasts like this and Half Wheel and Cigar Aficionado. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
So I mean, there's some value there, but yeah, events are very important, and we got a bit of a nice lineup, I think, this year, and so yeah.
So on the topic of events, and then going back to the whole plain packaging advertising, we do a little bit with merchandising, apparel, hats, T-shirts. Does the same rules apply if you go into a store? You can't have like a Fuente hat or a Crown Heads hat or an Ozgener family cigar hat. Do you have to like put the ugliest color in the world over it and kind of, you know what I mean? Or
No.
is that, because I mean there was a movement here, a few years ago where like you could not.
Yeah.
The FDA was trying to prevent us from doing that as well.
Yeah, swag's.
That's acceptable. It's not seen as advertising as a tobacco brand, right?
Yeah, if I recall it might vary from province to province, but I don't think they're we're not it's not being sold in a variety store where a kid can grab it and go to self-scanner and scan it or something. I mean, it's that stuff being given out with the purchase, right? So it just comes with the package.
Gotcha.
So that's what we use it for. The hats are the crown head hats are super popular, always well received. The lighters.
We were going to start a line for like little children's T-shirts. If you guys are interested in that.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to get a
14 to 16 sizes,
We'll take
that kind of a
10,000.
thing.
I wanted to get a T. We
for
wanted
the
to get
kids.
wanted to get a T-shirt.
As long as the kids can smoke them
Why
and roll
not?
them up. Then.
Sure.
We had an idea to get a T-shirt in the Pantone 448C color with
That's
big
brilliant.
block
I
lettering
love
just
that.
saying "sexy" and absolutely.
That's good.
I mean, I think one thing we're good at, and these are all sorts of challenges. Jumping hurdles, we figure a way to make sure we make it work, and we're still selling cigars. We just had our best year ever for
that's
premium
great.
cigars.
That's excellent.
Congratulations.
And,
That's great.
We're the industry's not dead in Canada by any means.
Yeah.
There's some misconceptions there, but no, we're still strong, and the industry's resilient is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
You just to talk, go back to events. We got some people. They do events in parking lots. They set up a little 10 by 10 tent in case it rains, and they just all stand around and smoke, and they're just there's.
Yeah, Canadian cigar smokers are very committed to their hobby and their lifestyle.
Yeah,
I mean, it's cold for 4 to 5 months in the year. There's no lounges. You can't smoke in a park. You can't. But we're selling the most cigars we sold, so they're making it happen.
That's great.
Irrespective.
Loyal following.
So my son, my 15-year-old, is a big hockey player.
Yeah.
He's going to a boarding school for hockey.
Right.
So hockey is like that is born in Canada. So I have to ask you, did you ever have any like unique cigar hockey kind of promotional? I see some nodding yes in the background. Because I think of like people playing hockey outside in Canada, when the weather, obviously when it's frozen over. I mean, it looks so cool and authentic, I mean, like, have there been any like, fun cigar hockey kind of he's nodding yes in the background.
Absolutely. Maybe we should create a cigar in the shape of a hockey stick or
Yeah,
something.
there you go. I like that idea. That's great.
Yeah.
You just gave a good idea.
Watch out. There's an LE coming.
Watch out. We did that before in the CAO days.
Yeah.
We had one that was shaped like a baseball bat. So, I mean, a hockey stick
And a
is
champagne
not
bottle.
quite a champagne
Yeah.
bottle.
You could do
There you
a puck lighter.
Oh, puck lighter.
You could do
That's a
that.
great
There you
idea.
go.
There you go.
Oh, that's great.
Absolutely, yeah.
And of course, my kids love the poutine. I mean, what would you say is your favorite Canadian food? I mean, I think poutine is pretty spectacular, I have to say. I had no idea it was so good. I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean,
when I can get my hands on it, I love having either some gamey meat like elk or moose. Had bear once.
Wow.
I'm okay. Moving forward, not having bear, but
Yeah, elk is really good.
But I love elk. If you like red meat, you like steak, elk's good. Moose is good. Caribou.
Oh, really? I haven't had caribou or moose.
Yeah, it's it can, if it's done right, it's very good.
Really?
So I like that. Yeah, that's personally what I like. So
Richard, do you have a
and
favorite?
who doesn't like poutine?
Yeah, poutine is great.
I think it's pronounced Putin.
Is it poutine?
Poutine? Or poutine?
I don't know. We have to ask Ellen.
We'll have to ask Ellen.
I don't know.
What about, do you have a favorite Canadian kind of...
Shawarma.
Oh, really? Oh, I don't think I'm going
We're a country of immigrants, man.
That's what I think of when I think Canadian food. Shawarma. So thank you for
The classic
completing
Canadian
that
shawarma.
dot in my mind.
Some
Canadian
donair sauce.
food is
Yeah.
that shawarma.
Maple
So have
syrup.
you guys had hot chicken yet? Now that you're in Nashville,
I had it the
everybody
other
has
day.
to have hot chicken.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And
And
what
how
was the
many
experience?
hours?
it's good.
How many
Yeah.
hours were you in the bathroom afterwards?
No, I had a slider, so I was good.
Okay, the
I was
sliders.
prepared. I just had a little bite.
What did you have? Hattie B's, I take it, probably.
No, I think it was at
Princess?
Puckett's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we went there. Yeah, so.
I don't know,
For 25 years, I've never had hot chicken.
Oh, really? Well,
I'm
yeah.
proud. Stand
So,
on that.
yeah, that was born at like Princess Hot Chicken. Do you know the story? Do you know the story behind that?
No.
So, there was a woman. I think it was Andre Jeffries Prince, I believe, and I think that's right. And she was making. Her husband was a bit of a philanderer. She got upset at him one Saturday night, and she would make fried chicken on Sundays, and she was like, I'm going to show him, and she added all these different spices to it, and then he came in and he ate the chicken. He's like, whatever you did is fantastic. So it was like the best tasting
Is that a
chicken.
true story?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a true
I've
story.
never heard that. Okay.
And so then that became Prince's hot chicken, which was just a combination of different kind of
Interesting.
hot spices that also once you cook them into grease, then you keep that grease, and then that heat just builds on it.
Yeah.
And so it was the first Prince's was off of, I think it was like Edmondson Pike or something like this. And it was in a strip mall in a not a very not the best area of town, but a few years ago a car ran into the strip mall, and that fortunately they had opened a second location. And so the first location originally was destroyed, and now the second location still stands, and that's the new kind of
I
Princess hot chicken.
always said that the best food is always birthed out of adultery.
Right? Do you have a story about shawarma? Maybe you should do a poutine shawarma.
Yeah.
I think they have that
probably
actually.
exists. It definitely exists.
Oh yeah,
That's for sure.
absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of variations of poutine. So,
Yeah. I went with with my kids to Quebec City. When they were much younger, and during Christmas when it was like 60 degrees over here, and in Quebec City it was like 10 degrees and snowing, and we had the best time actually. They loved it. They
Quebec
the
City's beautiful.
outdoor skating rinks, and when they had the maple syrup that they were pouring on these tables, and then rolling them
And the
into
ice,
a lollipop. I mean,
yeah.
incredible experience, and obviously fantastic food. So
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed going up to Canada. And actually, fun fact, do you remember we did the NHL All-Star Party when Fox was doing
that was
NHL
Major League Baseball. That was baseball in Cleveland.
We also did All-Star Hockey. There was an NHL All-Star Hockey event that was in, they did it in Vancouver. And I went with my dad, and I have a picture of me with Team Mussolani with a cigar.
Oh,
He's
really?
Team Mussolani, great player, I don't know where is he from? Is he?
Teemu Solani, he Finnish, I think.
Was he Finnish? Uh-oh, Siri finished.
Hey, thank you.
They're always listening.
Siri
Well, as a matter of fact.
he ate shawarma.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Solani was
There's
Finnish.
a Finnish man who ate shawarma in Vancouver. It's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm glad you guys are in Nashville and spending
thank
time
you.
with us.
Yes, thank you for stopping in.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate your
Stopping by.
hospitality too.
Oh yeah. You're great. And
great.
again, we have nothing but positive memories and things to say about Canada and the Canadian culture. And you guys are always so nice and welcoming and positive. Whenever I go there, it's
And thank you for taking Miguel to all the Blue Jay games too, by the way.
Yeah. Anytime.
It's very nice. He enjoys that thoroughly.
But he's going to
I
have
know.
to go again this year because they've renovated the stadium a
You don't
second
have to
time,
ask him twice.
Oh, I know.
He's already booked his ticket,
He's
probably.
booked.
Definitely. Before we wrap, what are you guys smoking real quick?
I'm smoking the Le Patissier. If I understand correctly, it was like from the original.
Oh, the original. Yeah,
original.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
That was when we
And
did a
then
PC
I-
exclusive.
It burned. I
Oh, that's all right.
burned out, so I have to restart it shortly here.
Oh, yeah,
worries.
we have a lighter.
No
for
worries.
This is your new addition, Emil Diaz Maduro.
Fantastic.
Enjoying it a lot.
Excellent. Enjoy.
Can't wait to bring this up.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you.
you. No, thanks.
Well,
Thanks
thank
for
you
being a
guys for
part of the
joining us.
podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I guess that's it. We're up. We'll skip all the questions this time.
Yeah.
She's asleep.
I
We're
mean,
gone.
still, I mean, we're exciting her too much. I mean,
know.
look at this.
I said earlier, I said she sleeps through the whole thing just like everybody else watching this thing. So thanks for checking out another episode. We'll see you on number 14. Until then, keep smoking Crown Heads, keep smoking OFC. Catch you on the next one.
All right. See ya.
Bye.